Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 193 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is of course the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comment section of this video. If you happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And before we get on to this week's questions, I just want to say a huge thank you to a Patreon supporter of mine called Keith Guppy. Something arrived in my PO box this week, and it is from Keith, and it arrived with a letter, so I just want to quickly read out the letter and then show you what he sent. Unbelievable generosity from Keith, so let's take a look quickly. And it says, "Hi Tim, hope you're well. Here is a little overdue thank you for your constant videos that bring so much enjoyment to the community, and as a thank you for your kind hospitality at Star Wars Celebration. P.S. I hope you don't have it already and it's not for opening. Keep on the path of grading, my friend. All the best, Keith." So if you're not aware about Keith Guppy, he has possibly the largest collection, Star Wars collection, in the UK. He's been featured on BBC and ITV and various other news channels. I wrote an article about him on my website as well, and he sent me this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit it all in, but this is the Trilogy Collection press kit Stormtrooper. Now I think this was obviously given to people for the press, basically, for the launch of the original Trilogy Collection. And there you can see the Stormtrooper there. And the great thing about this is that, in true Keith Guppy style, it has been graded, and it was graded by UKG. It got a 90 gold, as you can see there. I can't fit it all in, with big reflections as well. So let me just see if I can get that, how big that is. And that is awesome. As I say, I don't think I've ever seen one of these graded. I have seen these for sale before. They're not cheap by any stretch. As I say, this was only available to the press, you know, like websites and YouTubers at the time, I guess. I mean, I wasn't doing any type of YouTube or anything at the time when this came out. 2004. Was anybody doing any YouTube in 2004? But there you go. No, this was sent out to, you know, websites and people and everything to help promote the beginning of the original Trilogy Collection. So, Keith, man, thank you so much, buddy. This is going to go pride of place in my collection, on display with a lot of all my other stuff in my new collection room, which is nearly done. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll be seeing some of the progress on that. I've been posting a few pictures where I've got some shelves on the wall now showing off some of my carded collection, but you know, I'm nowhere near done yet. I've still got a lot more to do, but thank you so much, Keith. Really appreciate that, buddy. You know, I'll have to return the favour at some point. Zenga Fake says, "Great video as always. Question for next week: when do you think we can expect the next wave of reveals and pipelines to be announced for the Vintage Collection? The PulseCon stuff was underwhelming, as you know, and I'm hoping for something to get me excited again." Yeah, absolutely, aren't we all? Well, at the end of this month, we do have MCM London Comic Con, and I am pretty sure that Hasbro are there with a panel. So I'd expect some reveals from that. That's on October the 28th. It's a Saturday. That's the day of the panel. I do believe the day before that is the 10/27 event at Hasbro. Whether we'll get more reveals from that as well, I do not know. But I do know for a fact there will be Vintage Collection reveals on October the 28th at MCM London Comic Con. Kirby Mock says, "Great episode, Tim. Original Trilogy fan question. I love The Empire Strikes Back and everything about Hoth was great, so I was thinking of adding a Wampa to the collection. Which version of the 3.75 do you think is the best? I know the Vintage Collection version was released not too long ago, but I'm liking the Saga version with detachable arm, bloodied bone and ice stand. I think it'll go nicely with my Saga version of the Luke Hoth. Another milestone, episode 200 coming up soon. I'm sure the Vintage Collection appetite will continue well past episode 300. Let's hope so, buddy. Let's hope so. So you mentioned the Vintage Collection version one there being released not so long ago. I think you may have meant to say the Black Series version, because of course we don't have a Vintage Collection version of the Wampa, unfortunately. This is the one that I think is currently the best. And this is the actual one that came with Luke Skywalker, the 5POA Luke Skywalker. It is in the Last Jedi boxing. And the reason I think this is probably the best one that we've got now is purely because of the articulation that it has. It has a lot more articulation than the Saga version that you mentioned. So he does have elbows, he has knees, he has ankle joints, swivel hips unfortunately, but he is a big beast, as it were, so I'm not too sure if you could do that anyway with his legs. He does have the bloodied mouth, head moves a little bit, but he does have the removable arm. If I can just get this out. There you go. With kind of some fake blood put on there. It doesn't look great, does it really? But I actually quite like him just sort of just standing there looking awesome. I think he's a pretty decent Wampa. And I actually forgot to have him in the video at the beginning, but he's there now. So we'll just put him back there just to chill at the side. Brian Mongan says, hi BB, great content as always. Just wondering what you think of the 4-pack line being used for small creatures, Ewoks, pit droids, astromech droids, and younglings, that sort of thing, but not in a 4-pack as they are all smaller, maybe 6 in a pack or 2 creatures or even mixed. Or if we're really lucky, a pick and mix. I'm all for that, my friend. I'm up for anything that gets more out into the vintage collection, whether it's going to be sort of like loose packaging, you know, where you have those 2, 3, 4 packs, maybe as you mentioned there, 2 creatures would be good. I'm not too sure about the Ewoks. I think a 4-pack of Ewoks just in general would be pretty good. They would have to be the lesser known Ewoks that we've never had before on card in the Kenner line, because, you know, we definitely still need Chief Chirper and Romba and a couple of the others to be put out into the vintage collection to help finish the 96. So, but all of those things that you've mentioned there, buddy, I would be very happy to get. Channel member Reckless Deck says, Tim, 2-part question for next week about 4-packs. Do you think we'll ever get a 4-pack of troopers in the Andor series Aldani armored officer look? And if so, do you think they'll fix his legs? I love that trooper design and I love the top half of that Andor figure, but his legs are awful. I could live with the fact that they're not screen accurate, but I hate the way they stick out like he's in some kind of Wild West gunslinger pose. Part 2 regarding the Night Troopers. Let's assume Enoch will be on his own card. Right, Hasbro? Hypothetically, do you think we'd get 4 Night Troopers with the same sculpt and the same red and gold paint apps? The same sculpt but different paint apps, or different paint apps and slightly different sculpts or gear to make them unique or indicate rank? Yeah, difficult one about the Night Troopers. I feel that they'll probably, you know, if they put 4 of those in a pack, then it'll just be paint apps that are different. I can't really see them doing too much like that in terms of different sculpts. Anyway, no chance. I think they'll all be the same sculpt, and it'll be the paint apps that make them unique to each other. In terms of your first question about the Andor series, I mean, you know, this goes against what I was saying about name characters in a 4-pack, but, you know, if you want all of the people that took part in that Aldani heist mission dressed as Andor here, then of course you would need some kind of 4-pack to get them all. And the leg issue there, yep, I completely can see what you're talking about there, but if you have watched my buddy Anthony's video, he is the Imperial Communique on YouTube, he actually shows you how to fix it, and I'm going to attempt to do it now. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this first time, and if I've already cut this video, then I wouldn't have done it first time. But he lifts the arm up like so, and then he lifts the leg up, and then turns it around, brings it in and down, then uses that cut at the thigh, and there you go, that one's been brought in, and then you just do the other side as well. Okay, so it's not as easy as Anthony shows on his video. It is a bit fiddly, but you can do it. It's basically you've got to move those pins around to the opposite way and then use the thigh cut to swivel it back round. And then, as you can see, his legs are no longer really wide apart. And let's see if he stands up. There you go. Perfect. Thanks, Anthony. David Stevens says, hiya Tim, best wishes to the family. Question for next week. What vehicles, playsets or creatures could Hasbro release that would give the opportunity of having a pack in TVC figures that you really want in the line? Keep up the good work. David Stevens, man, there's quite a lot, to be fair, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for them to be able to do that, to pack in figures with playsets and creatures and vehicles. I mean, I've got the oddball pilot there. If we could have like an updated version of him, then that would be a great way to get the ARC 170 back out there. Talking about a new A-Wing pilot, for example, I would love, you know, a vintage collection A-Wing in a TVC style box, and that would be a great way to get a A-Wing pilot out as well, and that would again cover the original 96. So there's plenty really. I could go through lots of the new media and what have you, but that's just a couple, one from the prequel trilogy and one from the original trilogy. I'm talking about the A-Wing. I mean, that's been in plenty of different medias across Star Wars, so I think that would be a pretty good one anyway to like repaint. They've repainted the previous version so many times. you know, a nice updated TVC version would be pretty cool. Straight Out of Coruscant says, haven't commented for a while, just to let you know I'm still watching every week. Love the live streams. Question for next week, how is your collection room conversion going? So I haven't done a video update on that recently because at the end of the day it's just been a bit of a mess in here. We had the carpets put down, it's been decorated, but then I've been like sort of moving boxes around and trying to get cabinets built and things like that. So I'm not real ready to do another video on that just yet, but I have started, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, started to put some shelves up, started to put some carded figures on there. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see all of those. So head on over to Instagram and follow me on there, and you can sort of keep up to date with, you know, little things that I'm posting here and there rather than a whole video. But yeah, I will be doing another episode on the how that's going basically, and you know, after that it'll pretty much be a like collection room tour in that room. Another question about army builders here, and it's Nicholas Hallows, and he says, hey Bossk, always enjoy watching RSBB on a Monday morning. Question for next week, has Hasbro lost the plot with the army builder boxes? Shouldn't they be a bit cheaper and include generic characters? The Imperial officers are £61 and you could easily pick up 4 carded figures for that price. There are also 2 named characters included. Seems like Hasbro is doing everything in its power to put people off buying multiples. Now, while I would say that £61 is too much for one of those army builder packs, I think a standard figure now is £16.99, so 4 of those is a bit more expensive than £61. But I'm not saying that £61 isn't too expensive for one of those 4 packs. It really is. They should try and, you know, keep those down. I think when the Stormtrooper one first came out, they were no more than £50. But in terms of putting named characters in there, I think I've talked about this lots of times before, and yeah, I think personally those 4 packs, if they are being called army builders, they should be like 4 of the same character with maybe a squad leader in there. And I think maybe we've only had like 2 or 3 of them that are actually like that, namely the Stormtrooper one and possibly the Shore Trooper one, which are probably the 2 best out of all of those. So yeah, I think they should be doing more of that. They certainly shouldn't be putting named officers in, but I understand why they've done that, because if you just did a 4-pack of generic officers, you are kind of limiting who's going to buy that. Essentially, not everybody collects loose figures, not everybody has like big dioramas where they need lots of Imperial officers. But you know, if you put Ozzel in there, or you know, Piet or whatever, then people are going to want them. So I can understand why they've done that. Jacob is 2134 says, awesome video, cannot wait for the 200th episode. Out of all of the original 96 that have not been made, pipeline for TVC so far, which would you want to get released first? Man, that's a really difficult question because there's so many that I want, but I've put 4 in front of you here that I really do want for different reasons. I feel the Ugnaught is missing from our carbon freezing playsets. I've got no idea why they didn't release one of the Legacy Collection Ugnaughts. That would just have been an easy pack in, you know, put one of those in on the card, you tick off the original 96. I don't know why they didn't do that one. And then we've got the Hoth Stormtrooper there, the Snow Trooper if you want to call him that, and that one's a good one because that would then open up lots of possibilities for army builders that we've just talked about. Getting 4 of those in a pack would be great, wouldn't it? The AT-AT driver for me is just a classic card back that I would love to have in the line, and I feel that the previous versions of the AT-AT driver that they've made have their issues, some being the articulation, others being inaccurate size helmets and things like that. And then we've got Hammerhead, which is a cool alien from the Cantina, which the Black Series is going to be getting, which I'm really jealous about, and he would be great to have an all new Hammerhead in the line, but you know, I can't see that happening anytime soon. Conrad Pad 5811 says, hey BB, if you could choose figures to be brand new, fully tooled from any part of Star Wars, what would be your top 3 named characters and top 3 army builders? Man, that is difficult. That is difficult because obviously I could just say, you know, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia that we know that we're getting, because they are 3 that I want very much. And of course they are original 96. I didn't mention them in that lineup because we have had those in like the original trilogy collection, although they're not great. Although we have had him, haven't we, in the original saga collections. We do have him on card back, but yeah, those ones are just sort of given for me now. I think that they've said that they're going to be coming at some point. We know we're getting Leia, for example. So 3 characters, you know, I've sort of combined them with army builders here. I mean, I've got the Snow Trooper. He is definitely a newly tooled figure that I would love. Opens up lots of possibilities for the army builder, as I said. And the same with this guy here, the 41st Elite Trooper, I think he's called. I would absolutely love for them to redo him. Awesome looking figure. I love Revenge of the Sith. I love the clones. You could get out some of the vehicles from the Clone Wars line, maybe. The turbo tank, for example. I do have a video coming up about the turbo tank very, very soon, actually. But and it's good that we've brought this guy up, because I needed to get him out of storage for that video. But yeah, I think there's a couple there for you. I couldn't really think of 3 right now, but you know, yeah. Snow Troopers, 41st Elite. There's some good ones there. Delvian6 says, hello boss, been a while since I've asked a question. For the Vintage Collection waves, would you prefer a mix of figures from different content, or waves that focuses on one particular theme? A whole wave of 96 figures, Ahsoka, Rogue One for example. With focus waves, at least we'd get a decent amount of figures for different content in one go, instead of the drips and drabs that are being hurled in our direction currently. So yeah, there's a two-pronged answer to this, because yes, I definitely would like themed waves, and I think we might be getting an original trilogy themed wave. Many of them have been pipelined already, you know about them already. I think they might all be included in one wave, which will be interesting to see how that goes down. But then again, I think they've tried it before. If we look at the Rise of Skywalker wave, for example, that was a whole wave of just Rise of Skywalker figures, but it still has poor character choices. The Knight of Ren, for example. You know, what was the point of bringing him out when you don't have the others? So I still think they can make big mistakes even when they do whole waves of the same media, but I think I would prefer it, especially as you say, when new media comes out. It would be good to get sort of like, you know, 6 Ahsoka figures, providing they're the ones that we want, you know. Stephen Angel says, hey Bossk, it's been a while, but I'm still regularly watching. Question for next week. You said a while ago that Hasbro neglects bad guys or just doesn't represent main villains as well as they should. Do you still feel this way? I know you've mentioned before Baylan and Shin a few times, and I totally agree. No idea why they weren't 2 of the day 1 figures in the Ahsoka line. Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. Yeah, it just goes back to the previous question that I said. Baylan and Shin should have been in the line from day 1. And I have made videos before about the lack of villains in the Vintage Collection. I would say that they are getting round to them now. We know that we're getting Dooku, for example. They've brought Thrawn out. We're getting Krennic. All of these are far too late, though, let's face it. But at least we're getting them now. And then we're getting Morgan Elsbeth, for example, from the new show. But again, I just think it comes down to, when you look at the main villains from the show, you could say that Morgan Elsbeth is the main villain alongside Thrawn, and we're getting both of those. But is she the coolest character? Is she the one that's going to sell? Is it the one that everybody wants? And I don't think she is. I think she's a cool character. Don't get me wrong. But I'm pretty sure if you ask most people, they would have preferred the 2 lightsaber wielding characters, because 1, they just look cooler, and 2, you can just do more with them, I think. Cuttle Fazby, I think, says, thanks Tim, on point as ever. I'm a huge Phantom Menace fan, and as such I'm struggling to get to the latter and more obscure characters like Rumsleg and even Aura Singh for reasonable prices. What are the chances of re-releases of these and perhaps Destroyer droids or even more obscure figures, if at all, for the 25th anniversary? Thanks again for all you do for the community. I think Aura Singh is possibly one of the ones that I think Hasbro would look at reissuing if they were to do a reissue from the Phantom Menace. I've got the card back there. She's one of those ones that's a cool character. It's kind of up to date in today's standards. She comes with a host of accessories, value for money there, and I think it's quite expensive on the secondary market as well. So it's one of those, you know, that ticks every box. There's obviously ones from the Phantom Menace that I don't think that they could get away with re-releasing. But let's see what they do with the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Let's see if they do anything in a meaningful way, and if we actually get anything new from the Phantom Menace rather than just repacks or reissues. Magic Book of Horror says, question for next week, why do you think Hasbro did not give Morgan Elsbeth the weapon that she received in the final episode of the Ahsoka show when her figure was revealed? I've got a feeling it probably came down to Lucasfilm, you know, not offering that information about her sort of, you know, turning into one of those witches, basically. They probably had some early images of her and could probably get a figure out. I do think that she should have come with like at least the map orb or something from the earlier episodes, something to give her an accessory with. She has 0 accessories, and I do understand that a few people around in the US, for example, are getting that figure now, and it does look a good figure with some nice soft goods and everything, but for a figure to not have any accessories at all is pretty poor. But I think in terms of the ones that she was using from the later episodes, I guess that Hasbro probably just didn't have that information. Daniel Graham has asked this question 3 weeks in a row, and I haven't had a chance to get it in there, but I'm going to answer it this time, buddy, so I do apologise. And he says, hey BB, great video as always. Question for next week: do you think that it would be on Hasbro's radar with the recent release of the Clone Wars style 212 Army Builder pack? It would be possible to do a 501st version with Apo, Dogma, Jesse, Phase 2 armour, hard case, kicks, Tup, and even a repack of 5s and Rex in a pack similar to the Cantina band. As a clone lover, I would absolutely love to see something like that for the line. I honestly think you're onto something there. I think Hasbro think like that. I think that's a way that they can get some of those named clones perhaps in some kind of 4-pack. You mentioned hard case and kicks and people like that. You know, we've seen named Imperial officers go into these 4-packs. You know, it would not surprise me whatsoever. Waxer as well. It wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that. And, you know, those ones that you mentioned there are pretty prominent 501st clones. So I'm not too sure if they'd do like a 7-pack or anything. It'd probably still be like a 4 of them, I would imagine. But yeah, I could see them doing it, mate. I could see it. This is No Cave says, question for next week: repaints and kit bashes are going to be part of the vintage collection in light of the situation with the tooling budget. Although there does seem to be some clone trooper, stormtrooper fatigue. In the past, Hasbro has used tooling for multiple releases for more than just troopers. Protocol droids, astromech droids, and rebel pilots were frequent repaints, kit bashes, and even vehicles like the Jedi Starfighters got that treatment in the mid-2000s. What are your thoughts on why Hasbro's moved away from this, and should they consider going back to droids and vehicles like this in an effort to make the line a bit more rich and diverse? Well, I'm not too sure if they have moved away from it. I've got it, you know, I think 85% of what we get in the vintage collection every year is some kind of repaint or kit bash. I think only 15% is like fully newly tooled figures or whatever. But I understand your question, I understand what you're saying, and I would just say watch this space. We've got that new clone body. We've got to give them a chance. They're going to use that to hell. They definitely will give us lots and lots using that. There is no doubt about it. The droids with the R2-D2, it's still not confirmed yet if that is going to be a newly tooled R2-D2 like they've done in the Black Series, or is it going to be the Builder Droid version? I still have my fingers crossed that that will be a new R2-D2, and if it is, then you can see them doing lots more astromechs in the future. There's still plenty that they could do. Grief Karga's droid, for example, I think that was pipelined in the Black Series. So if you're following along with you know, TVC and Black Series and how they get these figures out in each line, I could see them doing that droid as well. So your question, I don't think there's any fear about them sort of doing repacks and repaints. As for vehicles, probably not. You know, I just don't think they will. They've done it with the X-Wing a few times, haven't they, in TVC 2.0. But I don't really think any of the other vehicles that they've released could be repainted in any meaningful way. That's why a few people in the community, like Chris at Bantha Skull, have written that article about the gunship that was in Ahsoka, that the Night Troopers are in, because that's been seen in lots of different media across Star Wars. So, you know, that could be repainted a couple of times if they were to invest the money into tooling up a new version of that. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that sort of thing. Major Camo, who became a Patreon supporter this week, thank you so much, buddy, for the support. Really do appreciate it. He says, cheers to the coming 200th episode. Question for next week: with the articulation we saw of the IG-11 figure, do you think there is a chance Hasbro will use the same or similar style on a new battle droid so that they can finally hold their blasters properly and at last have modern articulation? I've got to say, buddy, I think that's probably quite far down their list of priorities. I think they're quite happy with the fact that they reissued the battle droid and then repainted him in the Gaming Greats line. And we've had that whole thing recently with the 8D8 figure that's going to be coming out with that Jabba's set. He doesn't have the elbow articulation, and you know, at first they said, oh, it can't be done because of the thickness of the plastic, and then we said, well, what about the IG-11 figure? That's perfectly good, thank you very much. And then it was like, oh, well, we couldn't afford to put articulation in that set without making it more expensive. you know, it's just, I just can't see them doing it for a Battle Droid Buddy when we've got that other one out there. As much as I would like that figure to be updated, especially with the plastic they're using for that figure recently, it's so bendy. I have trouble standing it up and things like that. So, great question, buddy. And as I said, thanks so much for becoming a Patreon supporter. Really appreciate it. All right, then, guys, that's it for this week's episode of Ask Bossk Bounty. Thank you so much for your questions. If you have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below. I do apologise for no content this week. We've gone straight from Ask Bossk Bounty to Ask Bossk Bounty with no content in between. I've just been really, really busy this week, so I do apologise for that. But more content will be coming out this week, so please stick around for those videos. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members. As always, your support means a great deal to me, so thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.